What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Because of Sales podcast episode. We've got a special guest and a special episode for you today. If you're in sales, chances are you've fallen down the self-development rabbit hole. They're pretty high, and you probably know of this guy, Tony Robbins. Well, Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi own a company called mastermind.com, and our guest today, Daniel, is a sales manager and has been working on this team for 3 years under Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. So if you want to know what it takes to not only be the sales manager, but work yourself up from being an okay closer to the best closer to a team lead to a sales manager of a team that does 8 figures per year in revenue, this is the episode for you. We go into his background. We talk about what it's like to work on this team, the standard that they hold the team to, how they're getting better, how they're implementing AI, a lot of just interesting stuff that you might want to know about, to be honest. So it was a fun episode. My first time getting to meet Daniel, and we're definitely going to stay in touch and spill some game on the AI stuff that they're doing. So that's more towards the end. Don't miss that. Before we get into this, you guys, please go down below. Subscribe to the first link in description. That is our newsletter every week. If you don't have time to listen to the podcast, we're going to send you a sub 5-minute email breaking down everything that's happening in the world of sales across the internet. We're also going to kind of share some stuff from this podcast. We're going to share memes, tips, tricks, AI, just stuff that you guys need to know if you want to be on the forefront of selling and your sales performance. So it's free. First link in the description. Take 5 seconds, subscribe, and now into the podcast with Daniel. Welcome back to another Because of Sales podcast, you guys. We've got a special guest, Daniel Visconti, a guy who I outreached on Twitter after seeing his bio, and I was like, we have to have this guy on. So, Daniel, thanks for coming on.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
So Daniel is, if you couldn't tell from title, thumbnail, whatever, sales professional who is the sales manager at mastermind.com with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. You specifically oversee the closer team, correct?
Correct.
Cool. So if you guys are interested in hearing what it takes to run a sales team that does pretty good output for Tony Robbins, if you're listening to this and you don't know who Tony Robbins is, maybe go watch something else on YouTube, like just look up Tony Robbins. Now, if you're listening to this and you do know who he is and you're interested to hear what it takes to run that kind of team, be held to that standard and perform for, how long have you been there? Like 3
years now.
Yeah. So you made the cut.
Yep.
That's what you guys are going to learn in this one. So I know you mentioned you are over in Georgia. I saw on LinkedIn you went to University of Georgia, right?
That's right.
And you actually studied psychology, which I can see it plays pretty well into the whole sales thing. Going back to that degree, did you ever think you were going to be a sales guy or manager?
Yeah. What's funny is I actually wanted to be a physical therapist, but you had to have a 3.5 in like the pre-med sciences, like the chemistries, the anatomy and physiologies and everything. I took Chem 1 3 times and I got a D. So I was like, okay, maybe I should change my plans. I was like, what science degree can I get to where I'm not going to be in school for the next decade? And I was like, psychology is interesting, and ended up going down that path. But I mean, I've been in sales since I've been 16 years old, so just kind of fell right into it.
Do you think you learned things in that degree that even though you were already in sales that made this easier or made you better at sales?
I mean, I feel like you learn a bunch of things, but like the real learning comes from doing and then failing and then doing it again.
Yeah. What were you selling at 16?
Cell phones for a company called Nexstar Communications, which was Nextel at the time. So the chirp phones back in the day, if that shows, how far back that goes.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you just started, was that like first job ever?
Mm-hmm.
And right off the bat, was it easy? Did you like it? Or I don't know many people who have kind of started that way.
No, I mean, it's an inside sales job. So people came in like looking for cell phones. So it was more like relationship building, but that's probably one of the easier sales jobs I've ever had because they came in, they already knew what they wanted. It's just like helping them get there and then the upgrades on the back end.
Okay. Did you work there for a while, or you mentioned you kind of did sales ever since then? So what was like the progression after that?
Yeah, so I worked there in high school, and then when I went to the University of Georgia, in order to pay for my education, I actually knocked doors in neighborhoods selling pest control. So 60 doors a day, every single day, just get dropped off at the beginning of the neighborhood. So I did that for a summer, and then the next year I actually hired, managed, and trained a team. to do that. So, I've been in sales for a while. That actually paid my college tuition doing that.
How'd you get like University of Georgia's good school? Did you just pay your way through with sales or were you super smart in high school or how'd you do?
No, definitely not super smart, but yeah, paid my way through.
Nice. That's cool in itself. Like not too many people do that.
Hmm.
Pests, we've definitely, had a lot of people come on here and, you probably know other people that had sold pest at some point. What was it like back? Because this is like '05 to '10, if I'm correct.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people that have sold pests like 2015, 2020, more recently. What was pest like back then?
Actually, I thought it was a relatively I mean, if you're going to go door to door, I would probably prefer that over anything because, like, when you're knocking and you're doing your intro, you just end with, have you been seeing more ants or more spiders? And in the summer in Georgia, everyone has seen ants or spiders. And they're like, oh, yeah, I've been seeing ants inside or outside. Inside. Okay, let's go take a look at that. And then you just kind of lean forward, they let you in. And like once you're inside the house, that's where the sale is made.
Interesting. Did you do it for like a big company or was it like a smaller?
It was a smaller company. So the program was called Fast Track Training, which was like a sales and marketing internship, but we sold Honor Guard Pest Management. So the owner owned the internship or he ran the sales organization, but yeah, who actually fulfilled was Honor Guard Pest Management.
Interesting. And then you mentioned you got into recruiting. Did you do that like throughout all of school? Like, and if so, how large did your recruiting efforts become?
Nope. I sold one summer and then I recruited and trained a team for the next summer. So it was 2 summers.
And just from 2 summers, you paid an entire University of Georgia tuition.
Yeah. So in-state tuition in the state of Georgia is not crazy like it is elsewhere. I mean, you're looking at, 12, 13K a year, something like that for like in-state tuition. So it's nothing crazy, but yeah.
That's solid. What did you end up doing after that? Like, did you go into another sales job right away or post school? Like, what was the timeline there?
Yeah, I bounced around to a lot of different industries just trying to figure out what was for me. I mean, I think my first job right out of school, I was selling like telecommunications. And then I had a buddy that was selling roofing, and there was a hailstorm up in South Carolina. He's like, dude, we make a ton of money. You've already knocked doors before. Let's do this. So I did that for a little bit. Then I kind of landed in the insurance world where I sold there for probably like 7 or 8 years before I actually transitioned into this industry.
Interesting. I have a roofing sales background. That's how I started. So I know exactly what you're talking about with the hail stuff. Not a bad start, but insurance is, again, a pretty common one. Did you work under like a big brokerage or was it, again, like smaller outfitter?
Yeah, so I did both. I've sold independently, just straight like life insurance and IULs and retirement through some IMOs. But I also worked for a company called Peachy Insurance, which is one of the largest all-state brokerages in the state of Georgia. And then I got to a point where I was like, in order for me to get to where I want to go, I either have to own an agency and build everything up, or what kind of piqued my interest was and how I got into this industry, which is interesting. I started Instagram and Cole Gordon and one of his ads. Clicked on the ad, listened to the presentation. I was like, yep, I'm all in. Let's do this. Learned. And then that's actually how I got my job here at Mastermind.
Interesting. There's so many types of insurance that you can sell and structures, but a lot of people are attracted to it because of the idea of the residuals, right? And so you did this for about 7, 8 years, you mentioned. I'd assume maybe hopefully there was some of that in that time, but like what encouraged you to kind of like break off from that direction? And I'm not going to say start over, but like start completely fresh when you probably had already built up some of that like residual type stuff.
Yeah, I would just say, I don't know. I just kind of felt tired of the industry. And this is nothing against insurance salesmen. I love insurance salesmen. I just kind of got burnt out. And I was like, man, I would love to sell something that I had a little bit more passion for, something that I could really get behind. And then going through, I was just like, okay, maybe it could be coaching, maybe it could be fitness, maybe it could be something else. Then I got lucky enough to where I landed here at Mastermind.
So did you go through like a Cole Gordon training and then they put you in touch?
Hmm. Yep.
Interesting.
The offer was go through the training, do specific amount of mock calls, and then you get put inside of the pipeline. And then essentially they would connect you with a couple interviews.
Yeah, I remember that. Well, if you've been there for, 3 or so years, that kind of lines up because I think that offer that they run has changed quite a lot.
Yeah, I don't think it exists anymore.
It's hard to fulfill unless everyone is just like really good. But oh, that's cool. When you went into the Cole Gordon stuff, was it, hey, I just want general like kind of sales training to get better at what I'm doing? Or was it like, I want the sales training to get potentially like placed into a new industry and start fresh?
So the pipeline was the reason why I moved forward. Like the second half of the offer, I was like, cool, sales training, like I get it, like I'll follow the process. But part of that, and yeah, the offer doesn't exist anymore, is like we guarantee you placement in like one of these companies, which is a pretty bold statement, to be honest. And I can't speak for everybody. It worked for me, but that is a pretty bold promise. But I mean, like they took care of me, so could never say anything bad about that company.
Yeah, yeah. I know a lot of people that have gotten on really good opportunities through them. Yeah, I didn't know that. So that's cool. So you ended up there and kind of like building into closer to present day. I mean, you started as a closer for a little over 2 years. Yeah, a closer strategy consultant. What was that like?
So I was a closer for a year, then a team lead, and now I'm in management. But like first starting out, I loved it. Like, I don't know, I was so fresh and like I haven't been jaded at all. And I see this with some of my reps. Sometimes you're so excited when you start, you just like blow things out of the water. And like that was me. Like I came out, I think I made 10K my first month and like just never looked back. And I was like, oh wow. I can do this over and over again. And like, it wasn't me knowing anything about the product. It was just like really connecting and understanding this is a job where you just have to challenge the shit out of people. You just do in an empathetic way.
So you're probably looking at the day to day from a different lens now as the sales manager versus the closer.
hmm
Is the sales strategy and process and kind of team environment, is it pretty similar now to what it was then, or has it changed a lot over time?
So when I first started, we didn't really have like quote unquote a sales director. So we were kind of like building that up at that time. So when I first started, it was kind of like we ran these events and then the back end leads would go directly to the strategist. But now, I mean, we've got multiple lead sources now. We've got cold traffic, we've got evergreen, we have on the back of events. So like a lot of it is different now, which is the reason why we've grown so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. So 10K your first month. So you come off insurance. I mean, if you don't have to get too specific, were you making like 10K plus a month in insurance? No.
Yeah.
So you go from insurance like for 7, 8 years to placement, inbound leads, 10K per month. You're probably like over the moon.
Yep.
Dude, I mean, I would be surprised if you said there weren't like ups and downs like there are with any sales job, especially commission only.
Yeah, I was used to, outbounding all day, every day and quoting people and following up. And they're like, you have these leads on the calendar that know exactly why they're on the calendar. You just have to close them. I was like, I can't believe this actually existed.
Yeah, for anyone listening, you hear a lot about this like remote closing stuff, and there's a lot of poor offers out there, but dude, if you land on the right one, it can be really, really, really good for you. The hard part is landing on the right one. So that's interesting. I'm curious, like I've worked with some teams that had gone through Kohl's, or they had like recruiting deals with them. They had gone through like sales training with them. Was the mastermind sales process heavily influenced by that stuff as well?
Yeah. And that probably made it so easy because I believe Cole built out their script and everything. So like getting trained that way and getting placed, that probably was another reason why just that transition was so seamless.
Yeah, like I said, been on some teams where that was existing, and they're definitely like a tighter ship than some of these other ones. It doesn't really sound like you had gone through the ringer with other companies in the high ticket closing niche, but I wouldn't be surprised if you knew people who had. And dude, it can be the wild, wild west.
Yeah. Mastermind's the only company I've worked with in this industry. So super blessed there. But I have a lot of friends in the industry as well. And the fact that when I talk to them, they're like, you've been at a company for 3 years now. Like, even when it was a year, they're like, a year on the same offer. And I was just like, wow. I guess it really is the Wild West out there. So it's just one of those things. I got super lucky, just getting connected to the company I got connected to.
Yeah, I know some people like that as well. The best one that I've found so far, I don't have like bank statements to prove this, but I met this dude one time. He was closing, he had been closing on I think it was wholesale or like some real estate investment coaching offer. And he had been making, this is the part I said, I don't have bank statements, but he said for like 6 years, he was closing with them, making 20, 30, 40K a month. that is kind of like a pretty far outlier in terms of this industry, or like a very far outlier. But yeah, I mean, to even be on the same team for like a year or 2 years, it is pretty rare. It's out there, but yeah, I mean, it's rare. So you obviously push through. When you move from closer to lead and then into management, but specifically closer to lead, was that something you were pushing for, or was it kind of just like a natural progression?
No, what was interesting was I was selling as a closer when I started out. Like I was on fire. I could close everything. I went through the year and then I had the slowest December I've ever had. I think I was, 20 or 30% below KPI. And I was like, you know what? I really need to figure out how to get better at this sales thing. So I drew from my 401k. I invested in some sales training, really learned how to handle objections. And then once I came back to that new year, January, February, March, I was number one across the board. And then I started hosting team meetings to train people on how to handle objections. And then the invitation got sent out for me to be a team lead, and then took that job, and then management about 9 months later.
So there was like just learning how to handle objections better was the lever that took you from below KPI to just like crushing KPI. I feel like there's a lot in that. Like you're selling for mastermind, you're obviously held to a high standard. You're not going to be bad at handling objections, but like I see that as going from, maybe you're like B plus, A minus to like A plus. Like what truly could have changed so much to make such a big difference there?
I think once I had a dialed in process for objection handling, because I think that's the key. Because like if you don't have a process, like your nerves and everything, your heart's gonna be pumping out of your chest, and like as soon as they feel that, they're just gonna clam up with sales resistance. But when you have a dialed in process and you've just ran the play over and over, you can actually listen, you can actually connect, and you can actually lower their sales resistance, because it's a lot of coaching. It's just having like a specific process. And once I learned that, I feel like that was the missing part of my game. I was always good with connecting with clients. I always felt I had a good discovery, but until I actually had a dialed in process in the objection handling part, like that's what really just pushed my close rate an additional probably like 20%.
Do you think it's possible to boil that down to like a 10 to 20-second framework, the process that you're talking about? What's the elevator pitch on this master framework we're talking about?
I think you have to have a process. And what I mean by that, like, what are your go to lines to start out, and then you branch? So, like, the first thing you do, like, no matter what, like, you just get the buy in. Like, yeah, no worries, whether it's time, money, spouse, or anything. Let me ask you this, Dylan. With everything we went over here today, with the coaching, the guidance, and support, do you feel like we can help you really hit your goal of A, B, C, and D, or how do you feel? And they always say yes. You're like, well, why do you feel like we can help? A, B, C, and D. Got it. So just so I can stay organized on my end, is it a case of you have the 10K, you're just a little certain, or is it a case of we don't? And what that does is it branches it out. If they say they have the money, now I know it's uncertainty. If they say they don't, now I have to make the money work before I go down. And so I actually learned this from Sean Ray. I'll give him a shout out. It's the money, confidence, fear. So I got to figure out the money aspect. If they have the money, then I go directly into confidence. If they don't, then logistically, I have to make that work, go through the confidence. But if I find out they have the money and the confidence, the only thing left is fear. And that's when you go into like full on Tony Robbins mode.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that. I don't know if I was going to say it next. As you're talking about this, I'm thinking like, where do you turn on that switch, or do you turn on that switch if you even have it in you, right?
Yep.
But yeah, dude, I mean, you mentioned some of these trainings, Sean Ray, friends in this space. How does this sale compare to what you know of other types of sales? Like, is it a little bit more towards the end, like a little motivational, hypey, or like, how does that line up?
I mean, it's a biz op offer that we run, like helping coaches and consultants either launch and scale the business. So with that being said, it's typically people that don't have a lot of confidence, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of uncertainty. So it's empathetically understanding where they're at in their journey, asking the right questions, but then challenging them on the back end. So it's a little bit of both. Now, if we had an offer to where we were talking to strictly more successful business owners or more A-type people, we would obviously change the frameworks in there. But yeah, and that's the thing about sales training. Like, it's all great and the frameworks work, but you also need to take that and apply it to whatever your client avatar is, or otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys primarily, just so I'm not misunderstood, primarily helping people start a business, right? So you have like an idea or a skill or something that you're good at and you want to turn this into a business. That's what you guys help people with.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that being different. Even if you were talking to people, it's like, okay, you make 10K a month with your business, we'll help you go to 50. Even that is kind of a different.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys still like take people on like that, or is it just like beginners only?
Yeah, so we have a value ladder. The beginners are, like our beginner program. And then, like, once you get up to like the six-figure range, then we have another 25K program. And then once you're up into like, I don't know, philanthropy or, like once you get up to the top level, we have a program called Zenith, which is 250K a year. But like that's invite only. And like that gets you in the room with like Tony and Dean. So it's beginner, mid, but then the next one is, yeah, like the top influencers in the world.
Interesting. No, that's cool. I didn't even really know about that. All right, guys, quick break in this podcast with Daniel to discuss the sponsor of this episode, the Serial Sales Community. The Serial Sales Community is the business that I've been running for 3.5 years, where we help people like you go from a sales job that you might not love so much to a sales job that hopefully you love a little bit more. We're talking 1099 contracted appointment setting or remote closing roles, selling over Zoom, selling over phone from wherever you want, whether that's home or Bali or Mexico, should all be fair game. So if you know that you are a top performer, you're not petrified by the commission only stuff, and you want something that maybe gives you a little bit higher earning ceiling, a little bit more control over your schedule, a little bit more higher ROI for the time that you're putting in, we can help you get that. If you want to go down to the second link in the description, there's a bunch of details on that page. And if you feel like it, book a call with our team there. Mention Because of Sales will give you 5% off any membership you choose. Now, back to the pod. So you go from 20-30% below quota to taking a sales training. You mentioned Sean Ray. Is that the training that you?
Yep. I went through Sean Ray, and I also went through Bill Walsh's training, which, yeah, I really, really give him props. He has a really good training program. So like Bill Walsh, and then, I went through like a boot camp with Sean Ray that really just kind of dialed in my process. So I feel like once I learned the objection handling with the rest of the process, I feel like that helped me get to where I am.
So you got really good at objection handling. Do you think, I mean, obviously, if you can show people how to do that, that would help you lead people, but management and leadership is like a totally different skill, right? So was that in itself an easy transition for you, or did you go through your own new set of challenges when making that transition?
Yeah. So what's interesting is because my colleagues were selling alongside me, and they always say, like, don't promote from within because it's always challenging. It is challenging taking on a leadership where you have to like start holding people accountable. But really, like the sales training will help, increase a little bit, but it's not just the sales training. It's, the mindset work, but it's also like the little details. Like what are you doing before the call? Like what's your follow up process? So it's really putting everything together. But it's interesting, like when you have like a 30,000-foot view of things, it's like, well, if I was a rep, just a beginning rep nowadays, I would probably do things a lot differently when I first started. But yeah, it's interesting when you're just looking at the data and the numbers, and then the people. The people is the hardest part. I freaking love my team, but you have to manage the ups and downs when it comes to sales. And salespeople are super emotional. So it's just kind of meeting them where they're at and then redirecting their energy.
Yeah, man. I don't think we talked about it. I used to run a sales agency and I sold out of it this year. And we had like 30 people on different teams. And that was one of my gripes with that business is like I was more of the ops side. It was like me and a partner. And I was more ops. I was like systems, processes, tracking data, cool. But then when you put in the human component, and this is any sales management role ever, like you have to deal with this. I was just like, there is a lot going on here. And you can tell people things a million times, and the more you tell them, the more likely they are to follow. But it's like, dude, you just always have to remind people, do this, don't do this, try this. It's definitely a full-time job and more,
Yep.
That's interesting. Did you or have you to this point gone and done any further like leadership training to help you with this?
Yeah, I was in a management training program, and it's through Hardly Selling. So shout out to like Dean and Will and Sean Ray over there. Like as soon as I got into management, my company actually paid for that program. So going through and just like learning that process. So I'm just a big believer in like as you grow and as your income grows, like take a percentage of that and then just continuously invest in your growth. Like I was lucky enough to where my company did the second time around, but the first time around that was on me. And I'm just a big believer. And also there's congruency. You know, if you're talking to clients and you're asking for 10K and you're asking them to bet on themselves, like without you betting on yourself, I feel like people can just read that. I mean, people are just sold so much now. Like you can just tell their internal BS meter is on point.
Yeah. When you went through that management training, was there such a big night and day difference similar to when you went through the sales training? Or I guess it's different because you're not going to see the results as fast, right, with the management training. But when you started to see results with that, did they come super quick? Did it take some time? And I guess how did you measure those results if it wasn't close rate on the team and cash collected or whatever?
So, I mean, those results take time, especially like with the process, especially if like for us, our big thing was like our follow up close percentage was just terrible. And then once we implemented follow up systems and once we implemented like a step by step process in order to do that, typically the follow up sales come at the 6 to 8 week range. So like there's always like a gray area there. But I mean, it comes down to yourself when you're sales, yourself and your influence and your skill set and your mindset. And then management, it's like, yeah, you got to work with the people. You got to have a dialed in process, but you also have to look at the data on the back end. So I would say, you know, anything that's implemented, especially our follow up, it was about 6 to 8 weeks later, which we saw the improvement.
Yeah. Do you have, I mean, off the top of your head, do you know what things you tweaked in terms of follow up calls that helped make impact there?
I would say what's crazy is like, even though like Tony and Dean have been around forever, we finally got like testimonials and like social proof, and we spent a lot of money on that. And it's just some people need value sent to them every day, every other day for a couple weeks before they pull the trigger. And before it was like a one call close and that was it. Now it's like, okay, we do the call. If it's a close, that's great. But if not, like based upon whatever their objection is, we're going to shower them with value, whether that's in text and email. I would say every day or every other day, and then just keep on nudging them. And then maybe at the end of the month, there's a reoffer for a less price. So we're just nudging and nudging, and then we do a reoffer, and then that's when they decide to jump in.
That's cool. Do you guys have like, there's so many ways you could build that out, but like, all right, this person had a spouse objection we couldn't get over. Do you just have like sequences running for a spouse objection? You just like enroll them into it basically?
Yep, we've got that. We also work with a company called Attention AI. So when we do our follow up email or follow up sequences, it takes the AI and it customizes it directly towards what their challenges are and what their goals are. And then essentially, because everything's in HubSpot, when you're doing the next follow up, you just take a look at the notes like, okay, this was money. Then we're just going to send them value on, you know, it's not about the resources you have, it's about how resourceful. And what's cool with us is because of the name we work with, it's just we've got unlimited content. It's like shower on them. It's like, yep.
So you had to have kind of broken this down into, if you're using like systems, it has to be black and white. It can't be like, oh yeah, it was like kind of this objection, kind of that objection. Meaning there's like only so many valid objections that you guys are going to acknowledge. I'm curious what those are for you guys and you know the closers on the team.
Yeah. And what's interesting is, you know, like when it's a spouse objection, you have no idea like what the real objection is behind that. And when it's an uncertainty objection, you really don't know. So like that's really tough to get the exact objection because they don't tell you. I think it really just boils down to like, you know, money and fear, you know, and if you just ask the question, if you had the money right here, would you do it? They all say yes. Or if you knew for 100% certainty you would get the result you're looking for, would you do it? They all say yes. So if it's a resounding yes, 100% of the time, what's behind that? It's either like fear of themselves not showing up. It's either fear because they've done something else in the past and haven't gotten the results. So I think it's just money and fear, which is responsible for like 90%. Now, obviously, there's the logistical things like, you know, I don't have any time to do this for like a couple of months, but you could always push for some type of deposit and then like a later start date.
Right. No, that makes sense. I interview a lot of salespeople, and a lot of the best ones, when we talk, we don't spend too much time talking about objections, but a lot of the best ones, they really only validate or like believe in 2 or 3 objections. And then you see some of these other people, it's like, oh yeah, there's like 7 objections. And there's definitely like 7 reasons why somebody won't buy something. But like, if you really have to boil it down into something that you can build systems and processes around, like, dude, you got to narrow that down more, you know? So that's cool. It's like a cool inside scoop into something that other people probably don't hear too much about. So that's cool to talk about. I'm curious with you, are you now in a position where you have say over like who comes onto the team and who leaves the team?
Yep.
So, to go and work for one of the, biggest names in the self-help business space, a bunch of different spaces, like what's the behind the scenes, like hiring best practice for anyone who might be trying to apply to a role or something like that?
So we do have a recruiting department, but I'm obviously the one that makes the decision whether, they come on board or not. I think the best thing for me is like send me a call review. Like just send me a call review before we even chat. I'll go through that and then I'll make that evaluation. And then obviously we'll do a mock call with me, which I'm going to push back a lot. And it's just for me, it's like how calm and like how cool you are. And because of what I'm testing is like, do you have a process? Because I truly think it's just like rep with a dialed in process and a dialed in mindset. Like those two things I think are key. So, and if, like if I'm pushing back and we're not cool and collected, I feel like there's not a process there and we're just kind of winging it. And that's never going to work.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this is cool. I have this theory and like I've done hiring and I've been hired and all that. When there's like a mock role play scenario like that in a hiring manner, this is my theory, right? Which actually is kind of contradicted by what you say. So I want to talk about it. It's not so much that they're looking for you to have some like rock solid process and be able to sell their product 100% on an interview. Like that would be pretty unreasonable, but more so looking for like good fundamentals, because no matter where they're coming from, they're probably still going to have to get trained on your process, right? And to a point, I mean, you'd like them to be in a position to receive training and to implement and not be so stuck in old ways. It's more so that you're kind of looking for like good fundamentals. You want a killer salesperson, but you're not so much looking for like objection assassin as you are someone that can just like be sharp, be a sponge, lean into your process. It's not like too far off, is it?
No, not at all. And a lot of it comes down to just, I mean, it's the same thing in sales, like your gut. Like, do I trust this person? Are my clients or my prospects going to be able to trust this person? Like, are you listening? Are you connecting? But also, like, can you challenge? Now, in the objection handling, like when I like looking for a process, like any offer that you go on, at least in my opinion, like there's going to be, the money, there's going to be the spouse, there's going to be time. So like I do throw that at them and I do want to see some sort of process going on. Like, do they have to be a killer at first? No, but I want to just see like, do you have a process like for that specifically? Cause I think it's just important, at least for the prospects we speak with.
Yeah. How do you manage, given that sometimes the nature of what you sell, it is like 0 to 1 biz op, it is for Tony and Dean. And, a lot of people probably are interested in this because they have like an emotional investment in what Tony does, right? Like they like this guy because he helped them get past this thing in their life, whatever. But there is like, a scale here to where if you get people like too emotionally charged up to the point where they make decisions that they shouldn't or whatever, that they end up being the worst clients you could ever imagine. And they freak out and a million things could happen. So how do you guys toe the line between adding just enough emotional support there to get them to make a good decision versus too much to where they're like in over their heads and all that stuff?
I think for at least my team, we just make sure the commitment's there. It's like there's 3 requirements before you come in. Like 1, you're willing to give us 5 to 10 hours a week of work. Yes. Okay. You're willing to take the direction of the coaches. And 3, you're willing to drop your ego and ask for help when you need help. Because if they're committed and it's something that they want to do, it's a really good fit. So I feel like once we get that commitment, like it is a good fit for the clients. But I always teach my team, once the sale is made, you just do like a nice like button up process just to reassure them. It's like, so Dylan, before I process this payment, tell me, why is this the best decision for you? And you need to sell me. And then once we go through, I'm like, so Dylan, when you wake up tomorrow and you're like, oh my God, what have I done? What are you going to tell yourself? I'm all in. This is my year. Okay. As long as you follow the path, you're good to go. So like when you implement those 3 things, it's a good fit.
Yeah. I'm curious, aside from like objection handling, if you're looking at your top guy now or your top guys, if it's a few, what are they doing again, aside objection handling, that the others aren't? Maybe it's an effort thing, but maybe it's also just like skill thing. I don't know if anything comes to mind.
One thing comes to mind, and just my top rep. The reason why the prospect thinks they can't do that is the exact reason why they should. She is a killer at that. So let me give you an example. I was reviewing a call, and one of the ladies was like, because my husband like is in hospice and like I need to spend all my, time with him, that's a reason to not move forward. But she also like flipped the script and said, obviously, you're going through a tragedy right now. How amazing would it be for you to build a coaching program, sharing with your audience the tragedy you're going through so they can be inspired to build their coaching program? One reason why you shouldn't, the other reason why you should.
I've heard that before, and it's such an interesting thing because in so many cases, is it actually true? It's funny how that works out.
Yep. Because a lot of people in the biz op world are just looking for hope. They're looking to look forward to something. And at the end of the day, like if nothing changes, nothing changes. And it's just like, I mean, if you have something to look forward to and you have something to hope for, it's amazing, like just how much better your disposition is in life versus someone that's just waking up and is like, oh, the same, shit every single day. So, at the end of the day, if this is the vehicle to get them to where they want to go, now obviously they have to be committed, they have to be coachable, they have to do the boring work. But, the first part of that is like having hope and having something to look forward to.
Yeah. I don't know how much insight you have into what happens after you sell people, but I'm curious if you do have insight. The ones that go and get the biggest and best and most awesome results client wise, are there any traits that you've picked up on that make people like really good clients and that kind of thing?
Yeah, consistently asking for help and then implementing. Like coaching is great, but at the end of the day, especially when you're building a business, it's a you versus you thing. So like the ones that really, really get the results are like, I tried this, it didn't work. Where did I go wrong? Here's what you do. Okay, I went and I retried this. I got a little bit of results. How can I get better results? So it's just a constant like you do the work, you ask for help, you take the help, and then you tweak your process and then run that again. And the ones that just make it and the ones that are very successful, they just never stop that process.
When it comes to sales management, I'm curious, for a company like Mastermind, how you guys are currently wrestling with AI because some of these teams are all in. It's the only thing they can think about. Some of these teams are like, hey, we got something that works good now without AI. We'll deal with that when we need to. But like, how are you guys dealing with that?
So Tony and Dean actually launched an AI offer just in November. So yeah, we're right in the middle of it.
Okay, cool. What's one cool thing when it comes to like your job? So you're, important to review data, track things, systems, processes. Is there something cool that comes to mind with AI that's helped you do your job better?
Yeah. So, and I'll just go ahead and just give a shameless plug, like Attention AI, like our call recording system. I can pull it up and like now that I've trained it to look for what I'm looking for, I can literally be like, tell me all the calls that closed on one call this month. And like the score is getting very predictable. So just knowing that it's becoming more and more predictable based upon like a specific score is really, really cool to see.
Attention AI. I feel like I've heard of them. So you mentioned they do follow up stuff, but they also listen to call recordings or they interpret call recordings.
Yep. So essentially, like what they do is I created specific scorecards. It's like, okay, like rapport, discovery, pitch, objection handling, challenging the client. And then I just give them direct details of like what I'm looking for. And it'll score between like 0 and 5. And for me, like in my team, like once we hit like 3.1 or more, like the probability of that client closing is really high. Now, obviously, like just like any type of AI, when you implement, you have to tweak, you have to change things over time. And we've been doing this for a while, but we've gotten to a point now where I'm just like, closer struggling. I'm like, cool. What's your attention AI score? What does attention AI say that you need to do? And it's almost interesting because it's like, are we going to get to a point where sales managers aren't needed anymore if the AI is so good at the coaching aspect?
Yeah, that's interesting, dude. My gripe with some of these sales AI tools, they, have awesome capabilities, but they're only as good as the time and attention that you can give them to make them awesome. How long has it taken you to get that from new tool to becoming like an actual valuable part of what you guys do?
About 6 months.
Okay. It's not all that bad. The thing is like, AI is advancing so rapidly, dude. I feel like a lot of people, and I'm one of these people where I'm almost intimidated to invest my time into building something that could be obsolete in a month, you know? So it's kind of like a catch 22. You should probably just start and roll with the punches. But I know a lot of other people are probably thinking the same. So Attention AI, I mean, I'm on their site now. They have like AI agents, so they can do a lot of different things. I might have to mess with this a little bit. That's pretty cool.
They give us scorecards. They send them to the end of the day with the closers. They send me the weekly scores. We're very heavy on compliance here at Mastermind. So they send us compliance. And then essentially, I could say review all the last 3 calls we had and send an email sequence to get them to book another call. And like, it's really good at that. And I mean, as a rep, if you're ambitious and if you want to get better, especially if you have an AI tool, you can go in after every call and be like, where did I miss the sale? What could I have done better? And as long as it's trained and it's solid like ours is, then I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just like, man, I don't really know what else I can tell you that the AI can't tell you. So I'm like, yep, that's good for my job security. But what will never be replaced though is just the human being and that connection and the ability to like, challenge someone for like a big ticket purchase. People aren't going to purchase 10K programs. Like, I don't care how good the AI is, they're going to need to speak with someone. So people that are skilled in influence and persuasion, like they're always going to have a job.
Yeah, I was talking to someone earlier today, and you've probably heard it, but it's not AI alone that takes your job. It's somebody with AI.
Yep. And if I was a new rep coming on an offer, if there's an AI tool, it's like I would take the AI, I would analyze all the top reps. I would see like what that top rep is doing. And then I would take my calls and then I would utilize that AI. And like you can literally self coach yourself into performing at a high level with AI if you're ambitious enough.
What do you think about these more like entry level roles, like appointment setting? I don't know if you guys do like the DM stuff. How do you think those are going to be affected by AI? Because you're not asking for a $10,000 sale there. Do you think there's risk a little bit more?
What's interesting, and we have a DM setting team as well, and we have, setters on our team as well. It's always going to be a mix. Now, what's interesting is you're going to have some companies that are going to go 100% AI, and then you're going to have some companies that are like 50-50. I feel like the ones that are going 100% AI, the pendulum is going to swing back and be like, I'm so tired of not speaking to people. Can I actually speak to someone? But I also think it's very much of like, who is your client avatar? Our client avatar is typically like 45 to like 65. So like that's the generation where they want to speak to someone. Inside of the DMs all the time, it's like, is this an AI agent? So I think it's dependent upon who your audience is, but I think who's going to win is who's going to balance out, the human connection versus like the AI. But I mean, something like, DM setting is obviously going to be the first thing if companies are not there to go when it comes to AI. And then obviously it'll trend up, but I think it'll be interesting because you may have some companies that just scale because they're like, oh, I'm the company that decided for the human connection. You can go to the other companies with AI, but if you want to speak to a real person, come to us. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I see a lot of these other tools, like especially in the DMs and some of these like voice agents and such. There's a pretty compelling case for them, but then like they all to this point seem to like fizzle out. And I don't know, maybe that's just me not staying up to date with them, but I remember big company, dude, this was like 2024, 23 maybe, Air AI. I don't know if you ever saw them. They posted something of a AI voice agent, whatever, before it was like widespread thing. And they just like broke the internet basically. It went viral everywhere. And I mean, I know that company is like nowhere to be found now. And it's interesting how that stuff comes and goes so fast. Like I know it's there. I know it's like looming and soon it's going to be the norm, but
what's interesting, I haven't seen anything voice to where I'm convinced that like it's that close because we're so used to being marketed, so used to being sold. I'm just the human like BS meter is just there. That's when they're talking about like the truster session and like because everyone's been on calls before, everyone's heard it. So any AI voice I've heard, I'm like, that's pretty obvious that it's AI. So we'll see. If it gets to the point where you can't tell whether it's a real human or not, I don't know. That'll be an interesting time, but I think it's still pretty far off from that.
yeah, no, for sure. I'm curious, like, there's going to be salespeople listening to this that are like, this guy works on mastermind.com, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi. Like, dude, I mean, you probably know it better than I do. People like really like idolize these guys. What's one thing that people would be like shocked to find out about the way that the sales team operates? I'm not asking for like a bad thing, but like something interesting about working on the sales team for these guys. Is there anything in particular?
Yep. Everybody's human. We take a lot of shots and we miss a lot. Like we have two iconic founders and we try a lot of things that we think are going to work and then they don't, but we're very quick to pivot. I think that's the biggest thing. So when everyone's like, oh, like I can't do this because of A, B, C, and D, just know that like they got there on like 1,000 different failures. They were just so quick to pivot afterwards.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who said this. I think it was like Elon, or I don't know. I was listening to a founders podcast and they're talking about you need to break things faster. And if you're not doing that, you're not learning the capabilities of this sales process for this company, right? So, I mean, it's good to know that you guys break things too.
Yeah. And it's really cool because I see on the inside, it's really refreshing. I'm like, everyone's human. Like, obviously, 40 years of work, like the principles, they built many successful businesses, but it's still very much, we take a look at the data. This is our best guess that this is going to work to the level that it should. And if it doesn't, it's like, okay, why didn't it work? And let's pivot and then try something else again.
What is the most recent thing that you can remember that did work and has stuck and has made a good impact on what y'all do?
The most recent thing off the top of my head is we brought back in-person events. Like we launched an in-person event and like we've been doing virtual for so long. And it's like, hey, come into the office and work with us directly. That is hands down the most popular program we've ever created. And because I think people are just craving connection and craving like face-to-face. So when that was launched, I think like a year ago, that product is sold out like throughout the year.
So in person in terms of the fulfillment.
Yeah, fly into the office, work with our coaches, shake their hands. I get inside the room with like Dean and our team. Like as soon as like we threw that out there, everyone's like, "Oh, this isn't just like another virtual coaching program. I can actually come. I can actually shake someone's hand. I can actually film and edit in your studio. I'll actually be inside the same room of someone who I'm purchasing the products with." Is huge.
Yeah, no, it is for sure. I mean, I don't know really the distribution. I know you guys have virtual team, but you guys also do a lot of, well, I know Tony does a lot of like in-person events, sell from stage. Is your team doing any of that as well?
Yep. So Tony's got like 100 different companies. Like Mastermind is Tony and Dean's company. We specifically focus on launching and scaling a knowledge business. And then like our Launch Lab product is coming in the person. But I think you're talking about the RRI side, which is like the Unleash the Power Within, the Date of Destiny. So that's a separate company.
Got it. I'm not all too familiar with like his different companies, but I was curious if you guys did that. I'm curious too, like, this is a joint company, Dean and Tony. Do you end up working, like you're in a sales management role? I understand there's probably, people between you guys, but like, have you had like close encounters, anything that stood out that people would be like, that's cool?
Yeah. I meet with Dean every week or every other week, like on Zoom for 30 minutes. So it's really cool just seeing the insights of someone who's been in the trenches and been able to build that. What's interesting that I see is as successful as he is, like, man, he'll be up at 3 o'clock in the morning, like firing off ideas like we should do this, we should do this. It kind of blows my mind how much energy just in some people like that just have that drive and they're just relentless. Cause it's like, dude, you could have retired like 15 years ago and never had to work again. But some people just are builders and it's really cool, like working and interacting with the builder.
We talked briefly, but we had someone else on this podcast that works with you guys. And I feel your response just reminded me, I think I asked the same question and I got a very similar response, which that's some signal for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It'll just be like early morning text. He's like, hey, let's do this. Super excited. Let's try this out. I'm like, man, I think that's the formula.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, it makes sense. They have an outcome that not too many people have. They're probably doing things not too many people do. So let's talk a little bit about, I'm blanking on the name, your new business that you just started up.
Yeah.
What's the name again?
Prime VA Placement.
Prime VA Placement. So we just kind of built the story, how you ended up where you're at. You guys are crushing it. What motivated you to kind of attribute some time to like a new side project here?
I would just say from the thousands of calls that I took and the thousands of calls I reviewed, there's just a huge need in the marketplace for people to buy back their time. And it's going to be AI and, in my opinion, virtual assistants. And if you can connect somebody with a good virtual assistant that is skilled, for example, the coach or the creator out there that doesn't, want to manage their social media or set appointments. I think that when you're in the beginning of your journey as an entrepreneur, anything that's not revenue generating needs to be taken off your table because there's only, at least what I've seen, like 4 hours a day tops of like focus and energy. And if you can buy back your time with the other areas of the operations of the business, I really feel like that just gives you a huge advantage. So just saw a huge need in the marketplace. The biggest thing that I see is I'm not good with technology. I'm not good with social media. I don't know how to get these clients on my calendars. And it's like, if you can train someone that just focuses on that every single day, especially at a rate, because we source every virtual assistants out of the Philippines. I mean, every top salesperson I know, like every top coach I know, like when you're in their DMs, you're not in their DMs. It's a virtual assistant that you're connecting with. So I just think like as, you grow, it's a combination of AI and anything that you can do to really buy back your time so you can actually focus on generating revenue.
So yeah, I mean, basically what got you to start this is I'm firsthand witnessing these things. What's it like trying to balance? I know this is like fairly new, but balance like performance in your job, performance of your team, and trying to push something forward that's meaningful like that.
My early morning hours are focused directly on the business, and then my work time hours are 100% focused anything to do with mastermind. So it's just a balance, and it's like, yep, from 6:30 in the morning to 7:30 in the morning, I'm prospecting, I'm being a setter, I'm doing everything I need to do, and then during my work hours, it's 100%. Has to do with mastermind. Now, mastermind is the top priority, just the VA placement. I'm just like, man, there's just such a need here. People asking. So, we're just connecting them with the ways that they need help.
Yeah. I mean, what you just mentioned, like, okay, I see all these people that need to outsource so they can do more. They're not that great. Are you doing that in the early stages of scaling this business or not yet?
Yeah. I feel like, especially at the beginning of your journey and especially like with how like affordable VAs are, like as soon as you're able to, I think that should be the first thing that you do is looking into AI and a virtual assistant in order to really buy back your time. And I mean, like I see it on the inside of my company, like we're heavily invested in AI. We're heavily invested in anything that can be leveraged. And this is a very much like remote world. Everyone's working remote. And at the end of the day, like the clients that you see growing are the ones that are focusing on the right things and not worried about like the daily posting of social media or appointment setting. I know like I train salespeople, but at the end of the day, a lot of times follow up that can be done by somebody else. Emails that can be done by somebody else. Like if you focus all your time on just speaking to a customer that can give you $10,000 and everything else is like freed up, then that puts you in a better position to win.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think aside from AI? Because I think that's the low hanging fruit. But moving forward, you're running a sales team. Your goal is to grow, grow, grow. And I don't think they're going to shut the business down anytime soon. What's like on the horizon for you in terms of things you're looking to pursue beyond AI?
So are you asking about different ways like to really just grow the sales team outside of AI?
Yeah, I'm just curious if there's anything kind of caught your attention recently that you're like, dude, I really want to like try this, or I really want to put attention towards this because I think it'll have like good return for us.
We're guilty of not having this in place, but like once you get like a happy client, like referrals, upsells, everything like that to increase your dollar per lead. And a lot of people in this industry are 100% fixated on close rate. It's really like dollar per lead. Like if I give you $500 worth of leads, how much revenue can I expect back? And like that's really how you scale. So how do you increase your dollar per lead? You have bundled sales, you have upsells, you have referrals, anything that you can do as long as it's good for the client.
I've seen more people, actually, it was like basically this year where I've started to see people account for that metric, dollar per lead. And I'm not seeing anyone that's like not doing serious work look at that metric. But a lot of the bigger players, like sales agency owners, marketers, best closers, like they're tracking dollar per lead. And I think that's the ultimate sales sign. I mean, you can argue some of that, marketing, lead quality, whatever, but you're a salesperson. This lead was assigned to you. Did they close? Doesn't matter if they showed up to the call. Did we get money? Like, this was your job, right? It's good to know that you guys use that as well.
Yep. I mean, without that, the predictability is hard. It's like if I give Dylan $1,000 worth of leads, he's going to bring me back 15K. Always cool. So next round up, here's 1,000, here's 1,000. But if I give everyone on the team 1,000, you're bringing in 15K and one is bringing in like 2K. It's like, well, everyone's getting the same leads. Why is he able to do this? And it might not necessarily be like the units. It might be like, well, your average sale is 20 grand versus her average sale is like 2 grand. So like, what's the difference? It's the upsells, it's the referrals. So there's a lot of different things that we look at, but at the end of the day, it's really hard, or at least in our opinion, to scale without being like, if I give you this amount of leads, what are you going to bring back to me?
Right. Yeah, no, that's good. It's useful for like marketing purposes as well and forecasting and all that, which is, again, scaling things, right? To kind of zoom out here and wrap this up, I want to talk a little bit more holistically about just sales in general. You're doing cool stuff now, but you didn't just start here. It's been a process. I think you said 16 years or so. The podcast and newsletter and everything we run is called Because of Sales. Our whole thing is helping people live badass lives because of sales without driving themselves crazy, without working 100-hour weeks, without hating it, right? So I'm curious for you, like the saying or the phrase, like because of sales, is there anything that comes to mind in terms of like what sales has afforded you in your life, what it's allowed you to do, pursue other things, any wholesome things you can share?
Yeah, definitely. And it might sound cliche, but like your sales ability, the mindset and the skill set is directly tied to your personal development. What are you reading? What are you listening to? Because unless you have a solid foundation, the ups and downs of this job, like they'll crush you. And you'll have 20, 30K months, and then you'll have 4K months. And like, what is that? It's just because we're not consistent. And a lot of times it's because of stuff we're doing outside of the sales calls. Are you keeping the promises to yourself? Are you disciplined? Are you doing all these things? Because it just shows up in the energy that you have on the call and people can feel it. It's really hard to pinpoint, but like when I'm reviewing calls, I'm like, some people, I'm like, I really believe you. Others, I'm like, that was kind of like wishy-washy. So I would just say skill set game. It's a mindset game, but also like, I mean, this is your life as well. Like sales can give you anything that you want, but also at the same time, like you have to take care of like your mental state that comes along with it. So personal development, what are you reading? What are you listening to? And as long as you're continuing to grow and investing in your skills, I mean, someone is always going to need salespeople. Like you will have a job forever if you can master the skill, especially like remote sales. You will always be in need. And especially, I know we talked about earlier with AI coming up, I think this is the most valuable skill that you can have because like as we grow, they're always going to need like top sales talent.
Yeah. Last minute kind of hot take check with you. I thought of something recently. I'm not going to say it's more important to be as a salesperson as good with AI as you are at actually selling, but I'm curious your thoughts at a salesperson should understand AI and be able to interpret AI to a certain extent. How do you think that lines up with just being a savage salesperson? Like, do you think there's a world where the best salespeople are actually just better with AI, or like, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, AI is a tool. So, like, if you're looking to improve, if you're looking to find the holes in your game, somebody is going to utilize AI and be able to course correct quicker than you. So, I think that's going to give them a significant advantage because let's just say you don't use AI, you take your calls for the week, you can mainly review the calls and take your time doing that, as I suggest everybody do. Or you can take your calls from the day, put it in AI, be like, oh shit, I'm missing this. I can correct it so my calls tomorrow I can convert. So just the speed of implementation and correction, like if you're not using AI, I think you'll get crushed by someone who is.
Yeah. Just being able to like interpret data faster and iterate. Yeah. No, it's super important. And I guess both of those rely on your ability to like take action, and stay disciplined and be on top of your stuff. So it makes sense.
And put yourself in the best state. Because I mean, if you look at, Tony Robbins and how he built his entire career, he gets people to stand up and puts them in a different state. And once they're in a more positive and empowered state, now comes time for the offer. So it's just your ability to improve your state and help the client improve theirs so they can make a decision that's outside their comfort zone.
Do you guys have to do that with your sales team? Jump and throw your arms around and
No, we don't. But I do recommend doing something before the call, whether it's just walking outside, whether it's breathing, whether it's doing something, because like I think just your presence and being able to focus and just nothing matters like with except for your conversation with the client is key. It's sometimes it's hard when you take back-to-back calls and you miss 3 in a row, but the next call could be ready.
yeah, for sure. Well, dude, this has been really good. We definitely got a whole episode worth. If anyone's listening to this and they're like, I have got to talk to Daniel, where do you want to send them?
Yeah, just tell them to follow me on Facebook.
And just, I assume it's just your name. Yeah.
Yep. Just follow me on Facebook, shoot me a DM. If you guys are looking for any type of like VA support, I do that as well. But otherwise, I'm always happy to connect.
Cool. Well, yeah, man, no, this has been good. And, this is really our first time talking through things, getting to know you. And it's cool to hear an inside scoop from someone who started from the ground, just like everyone else, and worked your way up and working for a company a lot of people would love to work for. So I appreciate you, coming on, sharing the behind the scenes, and, hopefully you guys listening enjoyed this as well.
Absolutely, man. Let me know if I could do anything else.
For sure. Thank you, man.
All right, man.
All right, guys, that was the pod with Daniel. Honestly, I'm about to run and go try some of this game that he shared and go share it with the community that I run. And it was really, really cool. Attention AI, not sponsored. I'm going to go look that up though. If you guys enjoyed that, please subscribe and like and comment. It means a lot. Podcast game is slow. It can be brutal at times. And any sliver of support that you guys show us, we really appreciate it. Daniel's links are going to be down below. Definitely go connect with him. If you're looking to sell for Tony Robbins, don't miss out on the opportunity. And before we end this one, you guys, same as always, go down below, first link in the description to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. If you like the podcast, you'll love the newsletter. Imagine what we discuss here summed up in a 5-minute read, plus links from across the internet, tips, tricks, AI, memes, game, trainings, just everything you need to know to be at the forefront of what is working in sales right now. Doesn't matter what kind of sales role, doesn't matter what you sell. Perspective changes the game, and we want to give you perspective. So thank you guys for listening. Subscribe, like, comment, do all that stuff. It really helps, and we'll see y'all next week. Thanks.